Ever since I started this channel, I've really tried to be open and honest about the things that I felt had real value, and then talk about some of the things that I felt were leading us down a bad path. Today, I'm going to try and give you a couple of things that I think can honestly help you score better on the golf course. Man, it's hot out here. Hey everybody, welcome back to Golf Test Dummy, the channel where I sweat on camera to try and help your game. Today, I've got a few things. It's a stew, it's a casserole, it's a stream of consciousness just thrown out into video, because none of these things are necessarily, they don't seem to fit together, but they do kind of in a generalized form. I think they're gonna help you score. Everybody knows that really you score inside of 100 yards. 100 yards and in, that's where your scoring zone is. That's the scoring area of the game. That's where you either determine if you're gonna make birdie, par, or bogey. But I think all around, in order to help scores and drop some strokes and play better golf, if you want to lump all that together, I think all of these kind of have that common factor. The first thing I'm going to tell you about is a feel. Now, listen, I say feel, but be wary when somebody's trying to tell you, feel like you do this or feel like you do that, unless you're under the guidance of a golf coach who is working with you and knows your swing exclusively. If you're trying to go off with somebody else's feels, I think maybe a lot of you have all seen some of the pros on the range, even Tiger Woods, they kind of have this thing where they do this weird stuff and you're like, what is this guy doing? They're trying to tap into what feels like an exaggerated version of what they want to happen mechanically in their golf swing. And it can be very confusing, and if you're not suffering from the same sort of issues that they're having with their swing, then the feels, even if you get them right, can be all wrong. But it's really, really difficult to get somebody else to understand what you personally are feeling. So it's a very weird area to get into, and I feel like personally, it's not always ineffective, but largely I think it's ineffective. So I am going to talk about a feel though that I think can apply to most people, and it has nothing to do really with mechanics. It has more to do with your perception. So think about your full swing, and let's say your full swing goes to, I don't know, let's just say right here's a full swing for you, okay? Some of you here might be a full swing, some of you here might be a full swing, but think about your full swing. Now that you have that, think about a half swing. What would a half swing look like for you? For me, it's when my arms get to about 9 o'clock. And sometimes what you feel is going to be half, most of the time actually, is not going to be half when you're actually going to swing at a golf ball. Your practice swing, you might make a half swing all day and be like, hey, half swing, there it is. But when you actually go to hit the golf ball, you're probably going to be, most of you, a little bit past halfway. What we're trying to do ultimately is get you to feel what feels like a half swing at full speed. Yes, you may end up losing, you most likely will end up losing a little bit of distance, but you're not going to lose anywhere near as much distance as you think. And what you're going to gain is control and consistency in your strike and in your flight patterns. And that's what you need. Now, but if you're making simple movements and you go for a half swing and you hit a 7-iron, let's say normally with a full swing, 175 yards. And you think, oh, well, if I make a half swing with a 7-iron, it's going to go half that distance. Wrong, incorrect. You're probably only going to lose a little bit of distance, maybe 10, maybe 15%. But what you're going to gain in control and consistency and quality of strike is going to be much greater than any distance you've lost, and it will help you score better, generally speaking. That felt like a half swing to me, but as you can see, I probably went a little bit past halfway. Now, if I look at how far this carries out, normally I'm about 170 to 175 with a 7-iron. There I'm 166, 160 carry. You can play with that all day. Now, if you hit a 7-iron, let's say 120, and you make what feels like a half swing, you might be at 110, you might be at 112. You've given up a little bit of your yardage, but I think you're going to gain a lot in consistency and quality of strike. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is something that I've alluded to recently and probably before that as well. We're talking about being real on course. So I've pulled up a par 4 here, and we're going to take a little bit of what we learned on the last thing that I talked about, which was trying to make more of a half swing to gain some control, and we're going to try and apply it right here, but we need to apply it realistically. And with this tip, what I'm going to recommend is take one more club. You've heard this tip 1,000 times from 1,000 different people. Take one more club and swing away at it. Meaning, if you hit your 7-iron 150 yards and you've got 150 yards into the hole and all things are being equal, you've considered the lie and the wind and landing and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff, and you would normally hit a 7-iron, hit a 6. So I'm going to hit my mini driver here because really, I mean, it's a tee shot and, you know, what am I going to do? Club up from a driver? That's going to fade a little bit. I don't hit a fade. It's going to fade on me a little bit, but it struck very well. I can't believe that faded. Maybe this half swing thing is a bunch of crap. So here now I've got 160 yards left into this green. It's about 10 feet up the hill. The pin is tucked off to the right. Normally this is going to be, well, now it's in the rough, so it's going to cost me a little bit of power. So considering the lie with this one, I would probably hit a nice smooth 7-iron. Instead, since it is going to dock me for power, I'm going to hit a 6, which is an extra club on top of an extra club, because normally from 158, 159 yards, I would hit an 8-iron. Because of the rough costing me power, I'm going to hit a 7. But because I'm going to go one more club and I'm going to hit what feels like, to me, I call it a 9 o'clock swing, I'm going to go one more club and I'm going to hit a 6-iron. This doesn't have to be pounded. We're just going to make a nice smooth swing to try and get decent contact, half swing. Taking off right on line. Got to sit a little bit, and look at that. We're a little over the back of the green. When's the last time, other than thinning a shot or sculling it off the back of the green, when's the last time you came up long on a green? Statistics from Arccos and all the ways they collect data in the golf world say that the overwhelming majority of average amateur golfers' shots come up short of the green. I'm a little long now. When's the last time that happened to you? Is that common? If it is, then you're probably pretty honest with yourself and you're taking a little extra club anyway. But most of us, we're full of crap. The next thing I'll say is keep it simple. Again, this is nothing new. You've heard this 1,000 times from 1,000 people. Keep it simple. What do I mean by that? If you watch a lot of modern instruction and you're watching YouTube videos on how to swing a club and this and that and the other, not all, but a lot, most, are coming up with these very athletic, well timed out, get your weight going the other direction, let this fall backwards, lose the arm wrestle, get this back here, make sure you're turning the hips and you're going this way while this is still coming back this way, and then when you get through, maintain spine angle, turn this down. All of these things that are very difficult to pull off, when really what you're trying to do ultimately is take the club back and take the club through. If you really want to simplify it and you want to take a lot of variables out, which is kind of the scientific approach to things, you'd kind of think about this club sort of always facing at your midsection as you swing. And now that is very crude and very oversimplified, but a lot of times we're getting out of sync because we're trying all these different manipulations, when all you really kind of need to think about is turn back and turn through and keep the club out in front of you. So simplify things. Go out on the range. Get yourself 27 buckets of balls. Get your clubs, get your mom's clubs, get your friends' clubs, and borrow some clubs out of the clubhouse. Get all those clubs and all those balls and go spend about 6 days on the driving range and just try and make small, compact swings, try and make half swings, and see how simple you can get it. Make it a game. Make it a game to see how simple you can make swinging the golf club. Make it very simple. If you make it without a lot of moving parts, there's not a lot that can go wrong with it. Yes, you're not going to end up with the high performance Ferrari scorecard that a Jordan Spieth or a Rory McIlroy will have. No, you are not going to play to that level. You're not going to get their distances. You're not going to have every shot in the bag. But what you will have is a ball that goes a relatively decent distance, relatively in the direction of the target, relatively often. And that is something you can play with. So I'm going to tee off here, and all I'm going to do is just try and keep this club in front of me and swing back and through and put it down the fairway. And there you go. It's off to the right a little bit. Left the club face open. No big deal. It's totally still in play. We're amateurs. It's going to happen. You're not always going to stripe one down the middle of the fairway. The key is to put one in the rough on the right or the left far more often than you put it in the woods. So just keep it simple. Keep the club in front of you. Don't worry about moving these wrists all kinds of different ways and flexing this and firing that. Dude, your body will figure it out. Just get out there and go back and through and try and make solid contact. Like I said, get yourself 27,000 balls, spend 6 days in the range, and you'll figure it out. You know, since I ended up in the right rough, this is a great time to talk about a huge one. We're going to finish with this one. This is a biggie. Now, you probably can't see it. It's off to the right of the screen here, but I've got a little profile of the hole. It reads right now that I'm in deep grass, which is better than something else that's deep. Deep grass. So the power meter, which normally if you're in the fairway would be 100%, it's now cut in half, meaning that I'm not going to get anywhere near the power out of this shot or the distance that I normally do. Now I've got 155 yards to a tucked back right pin. I'm going 31 feet up the hill, and I'm going to have a club that whatever I choose is probably only going to go about 50 to 60% of the normal distance I get out of that club. So in order to get 155 yards, 31 feet up the hill to a tuck pin that's all flight, man, I'm going to have to hit a club I don't have in my bag, which is Bryson DeChambeau's driver. I don't have that. So instead of taking that on, instead of me trying to pull off the hero shot, know when to take your medicine. Know when to play out, try and put your third shot on the green, and then have a putt at par. When you find yourself out of position, make your next shot all about getting back into the correct position. So I'm going to take this back over here to the left. I've chosen a spot 116 out. I'm going to pull a 4 hybrid. 4 hybrid out of the rough. Some people like them, some people don't. It's got a wide sole plate. It's going to glide through some things. The contact doesn't have to be perfect. It's very forgiving. It's going to help you get the ball up in the air quicker. I don't have to have perfect contact with it. And that's going to stay a little bit in the rough. It didn't carry nearly 100 yards. That's fine. It's back out into normal territory with a decent shot to try and get this one on the green in 3. Now let's see if I can do it from there. I guarantee you I couldn't have done it if I was in the trees or if I'd only hit it 5 feet in front of me. Now I've got 61 yards, a little bit up the hill. I'm going to pull a lob wedge, see if I can put one somewhere on the green just to give myself a putt. That's all I'm looking for. It's going to be about right. Sit down. Back up a little bit. Went a little bit far, but I'm on the green and I have a putt at par. Know when to take your medicine. Stop trying to play the hero shots. If you're out of position, make this next shot solely about getting back into position. Guys, that's going to be it for me today. Some of the best tips that have helped me the most in golf and helped me play better, score better, drop my handicap. Some of the best tips I've gotten have absolutely zero to do with mechanics in your golf swing. And it has much more to do with trying to play smarter and play more strategic. That is a 6-iron that I swung about halfway, going out to 200 yards. It was downhill a little bit, so you know that helped. But that's still a very solid strike off a half swing. Try some of these. Try some of these out. See if this helps your game. You need to score better. Realize where you're losing the actual strokes. I'm willing to bet you it's because you're getting yourself into position off of the tee. You're getting yourself out in the woods and you're losing your position off the tee. That's one. Number two, it's around the greens and on the greens. I don't care what you think. Unless you're tracking your stats and you can prove otherwise, more than likely you're losing it. Penalty strokes off the tee, around the greens and on the greens. Try that as well. Save the strokes where the strokes are leaking out. See you next video.